I'm Harrison Graham, and I want to start with the headliner, in my opinion, of today's Bears news flurry, and that is with Terrell Lewis getting waived from this 53-man roster. I'll be straight up. I'm shocked by this move. To me, when you cut Trevis Gipson yesterday, who, by the way, went unclaimed, so we'll see where he lands on a practice squad. Maybe he returns. Who knows? The whole idea, in my opinion, is, okay, you let Gipson go, you chose Terrell Lewis. He's here to stay. Nope, you have decided to cut him, and they claimed a player. We'll talk about that player in a minute at defensive end, but Terrell Lewis deserves to be here. He earned it, not just in the preseason games where he was fantastic, by the way. 4 tackles, 3 sacks, 2 strip sacks with those forced fumbles there, 5 pressures. I mean, he was consistently in the backfield. And going back to OTAs in minicamp and training camp, he was a name that consistently we heard about. Getting after the quarterback, showing bend off the edge. Like, I get it. He's had injuries in the past. It hasn't quite worked for him in the NFL, but we were starting to see that potential show out. Now, no regular season games yet, of course, but the player they did claim has had minimal success in the regular season. So I'm a little bit perturbed by this move. I think the Bears have done a good job for the most part of keeping players who deserve to be here. Example of that. Keeping Tyson Bagent over P.J. Walker, who has guaranteed money. They didn't keep Alex Leatherwood just because he had $4.5 million guaranteed. Like, they cut those guys because they didn't perform. Terrell Lewis did perform. He did. You look at the defensive line, like at the edge position, like Dominique Robinson and Rasheem Green, what have they done to earn this over Terrell Lewis? I get it with Dom Rob to an extent. You drafted him last year. You want to develop him. He's got 3 years of rookie contract control. Of course, that's going to come into play. I can get past that. Rasheem Green is on a 1-year vet or just over vet minimum contract. Like, why do you just have to keep Rasheem Green? I don't get that. And quite frankly, Gipson outperformed Robinson and Green in the preseason. Now, apparently he didn't show out much in practice, and I know these teams value practice, and I get all that. Terrell Lewis did, though. We heard him all the time, practice reports. There's Terrell Lewis beating Darnell Wright on that rep, beating Braxton Jones on this rep. I just don't get it. Like, the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and I understand this is like player 49, 50 on a 53-man roster. Is this the difference in making a playoff run or a Super Bowl? Probably not. But at the same time, it's like, this guy earned it, man. And maybe he returns to the practice squad, and maybe he ends up back on the 53 at some point. Who knows? But I disagree with this move from Ryan Poles and this coaching staff. And I say that admittedly, not seeing every practice and not having access to every data point and all of that. I get it. It's not easy to function on a 53-man roster. But from what I've seen, he deserves to be here. He's been one of your best pass rushers throughout the summer. What's your one-word reaction to Terrell Lewis getting cut? If you had to ask me and get your votes in the comment section below, I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed with this one. You took a flyer on a guy who was a former third-round pick to see what he could show you. He showed you a lot, and you still move on here. I don't love that from this regime right now. And so the player they did claim here, Tom Pelissero had the note, Khalid Kareem off of waivers from the Colts, who, again, you saw up close, right? Like the Bears had joint practices with the Colts. They had a preseason game against them. And to Kareem's credit, he had a good preseason. He played really well. 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits, had a sack and 2 QB hits against the Bears. So you saw that production front and center. And obviously the joint practice notes, which I made as well. He's got good size for a 4'3" defensive end. I'm not even saying this guy doesn't fit the bill. You got a close look. He's got the size you're looking for. But, like, why does Terrell Lewis have to get cut to make this move? Why can't Rasheem Green get cut to make this move? Like, Alan Williams the other day, Rasheem Green does the dirty stuff we like. Well, it better show up on game days because it hasn't showed up in the preseason games. Like, sometimes guys are good in practice, they're not good in games. Preseason, small sample size, I get it, but it didn't translate when we saw him in preseason games. So that's a bit of a sticky one. Now, I'll throw this in there as well in terms of it's not always greener on the other side. I know Terrell Lewis has had some injuries, but he's at least had some sack production when he's been healthy. Kareem is not. In 27 career games, he has 1 sack. Like, maybe he's turned a corner here. Maybe the Bears think they've got something here. Clearly they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made this move. But I disagree with it. Not necessarily adding Kareem, claiming him, but I disagree with the Lewis cut. To me, he should not have even been on the bubble. I'm not saying he's a top 20 player on this team, but top 45, top 50? Like, the bubble is like 49 through 53. I thought he was higher than that, but clearly I was mistaken. Now, sometimes you're mistaken when you make your bets, but that's why you get going with BetUS, because they have an awesome deal for you to get extra money in your account when you sign up. Follow these steps right now, chatsports.com/Bears. Use our promo code BEARDOWN to get a 125% deposit bonus. Put down $100, get $125 for free. That's $225 total to have all season long. And by the way, they'll match that bonus up to $500, which would be an additional $600 in free play there. Chatsports.com/Bears. Get going with BetUS today. Put your money where your mouth is. The best sportsbook partner out there. Okay, another claim here. Ian Rappaport had the initial note. Want to give him credit. Defensive back Quindell Johnson from the Rams, who actually I had not heard of him before, if I'm being completely honest. So looked into him a little bit. UDFA out of Memphis. Pretty good measurables, 6', 205. He's a safety, which caught my attention. And I did wonder if a maneuver at safety could come, because both Eddie Jackson and Jaquan Brisker have been nicked up during the preseason. Elijah Hicks is your third safety. You kept A.J. Thomas. And by the way, you have to make 2 roster moves to make room for Quindell Johnson and Trent Taylor, who we're going to talk about in a minute. I think Tevin Jenkins to IR is one of those, but maybe A.J. Thomas gets cut. Maybe you try to get him back to the practice squad if you like Johnson. Saw a clip going around from a preseason rep he had where he had a nice breakup in the end zone. Got to think there's special teams value here if you're bringing in a UDFA. This is very reminiscent of Josh Blackwell and Jalen Jones last year. Bring them in here as UDFAs who fit athletic profiles that you like. Instant impact on special teams. Maybe they stick around long term. Both Jones and Blackwell are still here, at least as of this moment. Quindell Johnson is a guy that is now in the fold, so we'll see what he's able to do. Now, what will the Bears do next? Because, again, you got to get rid of 2 players or make an IR stash, which I think Tevin Jenkins will be one of those, which that would get you to 54. Then you got to make one more move to get to 53. Predict it for us. What will the Bears do next? Light up the comment section. And then, look, I think my favorite news of the day so far is you have a punt returner. Trent Taylor, he is signed. When they cut him yesterday, I instantly was like, there's your punt returner. Go get him. Go get him. He didn't get subjected to waivers because he is a veteran, so didn't have to put in a claim for him, so they are just signing him. And as far as making 2 more moves, it's possible this transaction isn't official yet, which is why we haven't heard who they're maneuvering to make room for him. But experienced punt returner, you look at what he did last year, 33 returns in punt return situations. Can also return kicks, but I think Velus Jones will still be that guy. 10.3 average, very solid. He's not like the most electrifying punt returner. Like, this isn't Devin Hester, if you will, but he's steady-handed, and I think he was top 5 in return average last year. Like, you may not get these 50-plus yard ones, but you're going to get a 12, a 7, an 18, a 20. Like, you're going to get good field position production from this guy, and he's going to catch the damn ball, which has been a problem with Velus Jones back there. So you've got that. He can also give you a little juice on offense, 87 career catches in 61 games. It's, 1.25 catch per game. He's strictly a slot guy, so I don't know how much he'll factor into the offense, but some production there throughout his NFL career. And now when you look at the wide receiver position, this is where things sit. You've got 7 right now. DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, Tyler Scott, Velus Jones, and Equinemius St. Brown, in addition to Trent Taylor. Again, we talked about that other move that has to take place. Could EQ get cut? Do you need 7 receivers? I think that's a fair question. I don't think Velus gets cut. Tyler Scott's not getting cut, so we'll see what happens there. Maybe they roll with 7, but they'll have to make another move at some point. Who's excited to finally have a punt returner you feel good about? I am. It's been a problem since I've covered this team. Seriously, it's been a disaster. Remember when they brought in Ted Ginn in 2020, and he was like 8 years past his prime, and he couldn't catch the ball? Like, it's just been bad. Like, they had DeAndre Carter briefly late that year, then they didn't bring him back. But type me if you're finally excited to have a punt returner, because you just don't want to be worrying about that during these games. Like, you can't have those muffed punts cost you games in the NFL. That's just a big old problem. All right, guys, appreciate it. Lots of news coming in here. If you made it to the end of the video, that makes you a real one. If you want more to come, subscribe. As more roster moves come in, we will have that covered for you guys here on Chicago Bears Now. So hit the sub button and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything.